Hello, avid readers, book nerds, or casual observers. Welcome to the read along brought to you by the Lit Round Table. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and today we are talking about the first 4 chapters of Book 2 of Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the first Dragonlance novel by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman.
Awesome.
So, the first chapter of this was depressing.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So depressing. So chapter 1 is called Night of the Dragons, which is just about what you would expect it to be.
Mm-hmm. It kind of makes Smaug attacking Lake Town look like small potatoes.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was very, very upsetting to read about how Solace got totally sacked, and the beautiful treehouse tavern got ripped out of the tree and thrown on the ground.
Yeah, that was weird.
That's sad.
It is sad. And poor Tika is just beside herself.
Yeah, Tika's not having a good time with it.
No.
And it was sad because for those of you that are reading along, the last chapter ended with Solace being on fire. So I knew that this was going to be a rough time for those folks. But yeah, that's a bad time. I forget how many dragons they said there were exactly.
It was 5.
I want to say there was I was about to say I want to say there's 5.
5 red dragons.
Yeah. Not to mention the draconians, who apparently don't just turn to stone when you kill them, depending on the type.
Right.
Which we kind of learn about later on as well. So it's this whole section kind of just starts with like Tika's thoughts on things, and she's really upset. But there's a person that walks into the tavern, and it's a person that she ends up recognizing and has to kind of contain herself because the draconians have been like going to the tavern.
Yeah.
Still.
So this is actually getting into chapter 2.
Right. Well, chapter 1 was only 15 minutes long. It was really short.
Yeah.
It was pretty much just recounting.
Yep. So chapter 2 is the stranger captured.
Mm-hmm.
So
chapter 2 is kind of where we start actually getting into the thick of it with the story.
Yes.
Into the thick of it.
Yes.
I forgot about that audio until just now. Hasn't been on my TikTok in a long time.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So the draconians have now pretty much totally taken over Solace and enslaved a bunch of people that weren't useless. Like all the worthwhile people they like need for the town to run, they kept around, and everyone else has been pressed into slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And Tika's depressed, rightfully so. And the draconians, one of their weaknesses is they can't stop drinking. So they like to drink, apparently. So the tavern personnel were deemed to be
essential. They were essential personnel.
They were essential workers during this trying time.
Oh my gosh.
It's upsetting.
Yeah.
Too realistic. So the draconians keep showing up, which, goes about as well as you can expect for someone who just had their land conquered by a people, and then those people that just conquered your land and killed all your friends keep showing up to your bar, and you have to like serve them to make money and not get sold into slavery.
Yeah.
So that's a rough time.
Yeah.
But eventually, or what did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say that, so like when our group shows up finally, all the draconians can talk about is like, oh, where did these people come from? We'll have to get them into slavery. But maybe not when we're off the clock.
Yeah, they're weird.
They're very weird.
They're super bizarre, like just the way they interact. But our group walks in, and it's you see Tika's reaction. It's just kind of shock and awe. Like she didn't think she was ever going to see these people again. But then, my favorite reaction was when she saw Caraman And
Yes.
she just like throws herself at Karen.
And kisses him.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
bewilders and flusters him.
Yes.
I don't think anybody really saw that coming, really.
No. And
I
then she
didn't.
goes and gets like spiced potatoes for them and like
Yeah.
gives extra to Caraman. It's very cute.
I didn't really pick up on there being anything between them previously. Was that something that I just missed?
I apparently missed it too because I also didn't notice it. But it
Okay.
is, they're laying it on thick here.
Yeah. And Caraman's like blushing, and he's yeah, and Tannis is like, shh, keep it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
We're not
Well,
allowed.
then like, yeah. So they're like this. Yeah. He's like, be quiet, but also I'm gonna talk really loudly about trying to get to the elves. To the point where
Yeah.
this other stranger that's in the tavern is going to attempt to like make contact with them. And then it's revealed that the stranger is an elf, which the Draconians are not real pleased with.
They're not really that fond of him.
No. But it gives Tika an opportunity to go full Rapunzel and take one out with a frying pan.
Or Sam, full Sam, Samwise
Yeah.
Gamgee.
Yes. Yes. She is kind of a Sam, isn't she?
She strikes me as more Hobbit-like and less princess locked in a tower. But
She's a barmaid locked in a tavern.
she's like Rosie Cotton.
Yeah, a little bit. For sure.
There's also like weird stuff that they said about there being like rumors about Tika, and I was like, are they trying to say that like there's rumors about Tika being promiscuous?
That's exactly what they're saying.
That didn't age that well, but
No.
but also,
It gets Sturm and Caraman real bothered.
yeah, I
The way
guess
the other dudes in the tavern are treating her. Which,
that's nice that the main characters are like sticking up for her, but it just seemed it read weird to me. Like I also didn't remember that being a thing when we first started. Like that seemed kind of shoehorned. Like, oh, by the way, this is Tika's now the sultry barmaid that people spread rumors about. Because before it was just like, oh, this is Tika, the girl that like, oh, last time I saw you, you were knee high on a grasshopper. Oh, look at you now.
right. And
But
now
but
it's like, oh, she's a
but now they're
promiscuous lady of the night.
like Tika's hot now.
We've been gone for 5 months and now, or however long they've been gone.
And now her and Caraman have a thing. So I don't know. Like I kind of like the thing between her and Caraman. Like it's cute, but at the same time, it just seemed weird.
I agree.
Some of the comments about Tika. But I mean, I like her character enough. That just felt weird to me, which was just kind of I think a writing thing. But I don't know.
I like that she's coming along for the journey now as well and not being left behind.
Yeah. Which so going on how that comes to be,
Yeah.
the Draconians decide to capture them. Basically, it comes down to, oh, you look like people that could be slaves.
Well, it
Let's
happens.
do
It's a
that.
little more. It's a little more aggressive than that. So like
It is.
elf is revealed, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's a stinking elf," and they're like beating him up, and then Tanis and his group can't just like hang out and watch someone else get beat up. So then they engage, and it turns into this whole thing,
Right.
which involves Tass knocking out Flint with a
Oh yeah.
mug, and then blaming it on someone else that's already unconscious.
Like blames it on a hobgoblin or something.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
under the
gosh,
table.
I forgot all about that. That is
Yeah.
so funny.
Just as Flint is about to be like, Tanis, it's so and so the elf, and then he gets knocked out. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And it basically ends in there's like hobgoblins and draconians that capture them, but before they're
It's-
captured, they have to like disarm, and Sturm is really
Yeah.
upset about his sword, his ancient sword, having to part with it, and Raceland tells him that nothing will happen to his sword because he's going to use his powers.
Yep.
Basically tells them if they what do you say exactly? It's like if you touch the sword, you're gonna get cursed or something. What was it? Do you remember?
I remember him like doing some kind of protection spell, and then later Tass being like, I didn't know that was a thing you could do, and Tanis is like, shut up.
Something about like worms eating them or something. Like,
yeah, let's see.
Which, while you're looking that up, I'll just say I thought it was really nice of Raceland to try to do something nice to ease Sturm's nerves, because Sturm is so aggro towards him all the time.
Oh yeah,
and
for
Raceland
sure.
is like trying to do something nice for him and like protect the sword that he really cares about. So I'm hoping that in the future maybe Sturm will be a little more chill with Raceland and not just hate him
Yeah.
constantly.
Well, we find out in chapter 4 that after this encounter, Sturm doesn't talk for like 5 days.
Right.
He's so upset.
He's a depresso espresso.
Yeah. Okay, so Raceland's spell, he goes, I have cast a spell upon our belongings. Anyone who touches them will be slowly devoured by the great worm Caterpillius, who will
That's
rise
right.
from the abyss and suck the blood from your veins until you are nothing more than a dried husk. And Tasselhoff is like, the great worm Caterpillius, that's incredible, I've never heard of. And then Tanis like smacks him. It's like, shut up.
As soon as he said Caterpillius, I was just like, you're so full of crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny though. Like it's funny to me, Raceland's ability to bluff. And I was like, oh yeah, you were a magician. Like before you could actually do like straight up real magic, you actually did like sleight of hand illusionary stuff. So like
Right.
you like
Right.
you like tricking people. So
And then it just leaves the hobgoblins like, no, I'm not going to touch it. You touch it. No, I'm not going to do it. How are we going to get these weapons and everything with us?
it was very entertaining.
It was very good. Yeah. We also find out that Tanis knows this elf, which was kind of alluded to by Flint. Like, being
Right.
like, oh, hey. So it's Gilthanas. And apparently they grew up together.
Right. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so that kind of gets
That's more in the
dove
next
into
chapter.
next chapter when they're what's the next chapter called?
The slave caravan, a strange old magician.
Right. So a few things happen in this chapter. The group is thrown into a rolling cage and is basically going to get sent to an iron mine to just work as slaves for the rest of their lives. So yeah, that goes over well with Sturm, especially. He is just kind of sitting in the cage. Super.
Well, and poor Tass. Tass is also like beside himself with boredom because he can't do anything.
Yeah, I like the way the book said it, where they said that it is said among all the races that one of the cruelest forms of torture you could inflict on a kender is to lock them in a cage, and then the cruelest form of torture for all the other races is to lock them in a cage with a kender.
Yes, which is technically in chapter 4, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's very fitting.
I really liked that little
too.
bit. Yeah, because he's pissing everyone off.
Yeah.
Because he won't shut up. But anyway, we kind of get to hear more about Tanis's backstory that we didn't get to hear before. Like we knew about like his mother being an elf and like how he was born and all of that, but we had never really heard much about his actual upbringing, so that was kind of interesting. We got to learn that this
He's
elf
basically Aragorn.
Yeah, like this elf that they're with. Can you repeat his name? What was it again?
Gilthanas.
Gilthanas. He knew Tanis very well growing up, and was it Gilthanas's dad who like hates Tanis's guts, or was it actually Gilthanas? Who was it?
So the relation is something like that Tanis's mother is Gilthanas's father's brother's wife.
Yeah, it's kind of
But
complicated.
his brother's dead before Tanis is even born. But Tanis has a human husband, resulting from
You mean human father? You said
What did I
husband.
say?
You said husband.
Oh, human.
No, Tanis has a human father.
Yes. From a bad situation. So,
Yeah. Trying to avoid the
he's-
word.
yes, yes. So he's not actually related to Gilthanas, but they're like as close to not being related as you can almost possibly be.
Yeah, they're kind of grew up almost like siblings, almost like step siblings, kind of.
Yeah, and I think that the old man like raised him, but because the issue came up because Tanis like and Lorana, Gilthanas' sister, excuse me. Tanis and Lorana, Gilthanas' sister, ended up like having a thing, and that ticked off like everybody because Tanis is a half elf.
Yeah, or to them, he's half human.
Right. And so they kicked him out.
Yeah,
Sort of.
shunned.
Sort of. Or did he like volunteer to leave?
Oh no,
I'm
you're
not
right.
really sure.
He left on his own accord, but I think
Because things were awkward.
I think he said that like if he didn't leave, they probably would have forced him out eventually. Like it was for everyone's best interest that he left, and that's why things are so awkward between him and Gilthanas, and
Yeah.
it's kind of tense there. So
Very tense.
we did get to learn some about Tanis's backstory, and then the old man.
Well, before we meet the old man, though, we also learn more about Raceland and Caraman's backstory, and supposedly they've known Tika like since they were kids.
Oh right, okay, yeah, you're right.
And then we have the whole bit with Theros Ironfeld, the smith who's been saving elves.
Oh, you're right. I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, he gets thrown into their cart with them, and he's been maimed. Like he has no hand. He's missing a hand or part
He's
of his
missing
arm.
he's missing his smith hand, like his right hand that he would use for smithing.
But Goldmoon surprises Gilthanas, not us though, because we all know what Goldmoon is capable of now.
Yeah.
And she heals him, or like
Jesus.
his hand doesn't grow back, but like it stops bleeding and it like has skin over the.
Yeah. He's all stumpified. Mm-hmm. It's a spell in D&D. Stumpify.
Is it really?
No. It's,
Oh, I don't know.
she'd probably used healing word or
Yeah.
touch of healing or I don't know. There's like several healing spells in D&D, but she gets to use her fancy new cleric holy symbol, her talisman. Yeah, so she heals him. So he's like still in really rough shape for the rest of the trip, but he is at least not dying.
Right.
As far as Raceland and Caraman's backstory, for that, I remember they talked about how Raceland like started getting into magic. Like I said before, how he used to do like sleight of hand magic stuff. Like there was like a fair or something, and there was like an illusionist that was performing, and Raceland's totally captivated by this illusionist, and Caraman and Tika. Oh no, Caraman and their sister, who we have not met, Lorena.
No. Kitiara.
Okay.
Lorana is the elf.
Oh, that was the elf one. Okay, you're right. Sorry, I'm getting my
Tanis love interest.
I'm getting
confused.
Tanis's love interests confused because apparently he has more than one now. So, okay, yes, their sister and Caraman went off to
Half
see.
sister. She's a half sister.
Right, they went off to see a different performance that was more about like physical, like athletic stuff, like competition stuff, and Raceland totally memorized this dude's entire magic act and was really good at it. So their dad. Sent him off to wizard school. They sent him off to Hogwarts.
No.
You're a wizard, Raceland.
Yeah.
No, that's not what happens. Tell us what really happens, Anna.
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. It's more or less what really
I do
happens.
know. I was going to say, I think you've told everything.
Well, it just wasn't Hogwarts. We're mixing
Right.
our. No, they sent him off to train under real wizards and mages. They call them mages, actually. The Magi.
Yes.
And it's still mysterious as to how he got super messed up. Like we kind of know he had like some stuff that he had to. There were like trials or something that went wrong.
Yeah,
And
like if you really want to know more about Raceland and Caraman's story, the Time of the Twins series is like where you need to go, which is a series that comes before this. We've talked about it before.
I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll check it out.
I remember them being very good.
Yeah. So yeah, and then we get all this backstory about Raceland and Caraman, and then I think the my favorite part of these chapters is the old man showing up. The crazy old coot. They roll up and he's talking to a tree. He's not okay.
Yeah.
He's having an argument.
Yeah, he's fighting with a tree.
He's having an argument with a tree, telling
It's very Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, he's so weird. He's telling the tree that he was sitting on that stone and then he came along and obstructed the sunlight and that then he needs to move
so that he can have the sunlight back.
And he's like trying to kick the tree, and the Draconians and the Hobgoblins roll up with the slave caravan and they just scoop him up. And as they're scooping him up, he's like, "Oh, you should be arresting the tree for obstruction of sunlight."
Yeah. Yep.
It's so funny.
And Raceland is miserable while all this happens with his cough. It's gotten very bad.
Right,
because he doesn't. Like, I can help with this. Yeah. And he does.
And we're introduced to his name, Fizban. And Tass is like, "That's made up." He's like, "Oh, well, that's a bummer. I was fond of it." Like, right. But there's an interesting moment. When Raceland's having a hard time with his cough, and Fizban comes in and he's like, "Oh, thanks for picking me up." And they're like, "You got captured." And he's like, "Really? Oh, I thought this is a group that was coming through that I heard about." And it's just like, he's just nuts. He's totally lost it. But Raceland sees him and he kind of gets like wide-eyed for a moment. But then Fizban like whispers something to him and then he calms down again. So I'm like, someone just cast Modify Memory, or someone just cast some sort of like Persuady spell so that Raceland didn't know who he is. Because my theory is that is Fistandantilus, the wizard that for the book that Raceland was trying to find. Because I think Raceland almost said the name, but then he cut him off. So I'm like 90% sure that Fizban is Fistandantilus, the ancient powerful wizard. And I also think that could this be the same dude from the very beginning that like orchestrated them meeting up in Solace? Because that was a crazy old wizard dude too. The guy that like had the staff. And like gave it to them, and they lit the Theocrat on, or healed the Theocrat.
No. Goldmoon showed up with the staff, and he just handed it to Tasselhoff.
No, right. He gave it to Tasselhoff, but it was in his hand. But I'm just saying that dude is what I'm trying to say.
I don't know. I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't made that connection.
I feel like
maybe
they're the same dude, but I'd also be odd that the group didn't recognize him.
Right.
Unless he had a hood up the whole time before. I don't know. There could be more than one crazy old man,
Yes,
but
there definitely could.
It's kind of in my head that they're the same person, because he seems like someone who knows way more than they let on and acts crazy as kind of a bluff, as mages do. And that's kind of the vibe that I was getting from the dude in the very beginning. When they're like, "Oh, you must be tired after climbing all those stairs up here." Stairs? Oh, yeah, right. Stairs. Totally. Yep. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, you're making a good point. I just hadn't thought of it.
Yeah, I think the wizard is orchestrating the epic adventure of this group. So yeah, that's Fizban. He's fun. I like him.
I do too. He's great. So then chapter 4, Rescued and Fizban's Magic.
Yep.
Eyebrow wiggle.
Yeah. Wiggle them while you can before they get burned off.
By Fizban.
Yeah. So this chapter is basically, it's more of an action. It's like action, but also there's a lot of comedy in this chapter with the Gully Dwarf. There's a lot of comic relief with the Gully Dwarves in this book, I'm realizing.
Yes. So this poor gully dwarf has been like in the service of Lord Verminard, who's like the head honcho dude. And then like through a series of weird, unfortunate events, he became someone who worked for the Fewmaster Toad. That's how I'm saying his name. Is that how they said it in the audiobook?
Say it again.
Toad? Toede.
Yeah. It wasn't like Toady or anything. It was, yeah.
Toad. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now he's walking alongside this cage.
Yeah.
And Hasselhoff just loves talking to him and hearing all of his bizarro stories.
I just imagine, I think they say this, but Tass sitting like at the back of the cage with his legs dangling out, just like kicking in the air while he like regales this gully dwarf of these exaggerated tales. But it's kind of funny because the gully dwarf will like correct him on things if he already told the story and he forgets something. The gully dwarf will like correct him, which we already heard Flint say that would happen because they all have memories like a steel trap, and
Yeah.
so it's really funny that they like can't count, but they can remember,
all.
but they can like remember everything. It's just
Right.
really funny to me.
Because he's trying to tell them how many dragons there were, and he goes, there was no more than 10, and holds up like 2 fingers or something.
Yeah.
And Tannis is like, okay, whatever. We'll never know how many dragons there were.
Exactly. It's so funny.
Yeah.
The gully dwarves. They're trying their best. Anyway, so as Tass is sitting in this cart, bored out of his gourd, he hears peculiar bird whistles that he thought would be unusual for these parts, coming from the forest. And then he hears more whistles and more whistles. Then he hears a whistle coming from inside the cage. And then elven arrows start peppering the slave caravan. So this is the rescue bit.
Yes.
Which Sturm...
Rescued by the elves.
Yeah.
And Sturm finally speaks.
Yeah, Sturm is a little more livened up, although he was still a grouchy gills in the beginning. Just because he was like, okay, so the elves are showing up and shooting arrows at everything. We could be hit by these arrows at any moment. And also, we still have no way to get out of this cage.
And Gilthanis, the elf, is like, well, we can't do everything for you.
Yeah.
We're going to have to figure that part out on our own.
Like, we're distracting the draconians and the hobgoblins. You guys, we figure out how to get out of the cage. This is how this works.
We have magic users after all. We're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And Raceland's like, I have none of my stuff. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I can't work without spell components.
And so they're like, Caraman, will you try? So Caraman like puffs up his chest and tries to pull the bars apart. And
I can almost recite for you exactly how this book describes Caraman trying to lift something every single time. His face reddens, his muscles bulged under his tunic, like it is like his face goes red, his knuckles went white, and then he exhaled, and yeah, it's like every single time his face goes red, his muscles tense up, his knuckles go white. It's like we've gotten the same exact description like 5 times.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. With varying levels of success.
Yeah, this time did not work at all.
No, not a bit.
So, Tass has the brilliant idea of trying to enlist the help of your friendly neighborhood gully dwarf to try to use his axe on the lock.
And he has a heck of a time even getting his axe off of his back.
And then once he gets it off of his back, Flint, who is actually someone who works with metal,
and axes all the time.
Yeah, is really annoyed because it looks like this axe is like ancient. It's like he pulls out an antique woodcutting axe. It's like not even it is like rusty.
Not a battle axe at all.
It's rusty and worn, and and he swings like 4 times. Like the dude can't hit the lock, and when he does hit the lock, it does basically nothing.
It damages the axe. It doesn't damage the lock. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Which is when we get into Fizban's magic.
Which is great.
We got the first fireball. The first fireball of the book.
In a cage with a bunch of other people.
Yeah. Fireball is one of those interesting spells where it's like in the game it's like a big area of effect spell, right? So like the idea of casting it on something in a cage, and like everyone is like within 20 feet of you. Like
Yeah.
you're an idiot.
Well, yeah, well, that's the funny thing. So he starts like casting the spell, and I don't remember who, but someone's like, Raceland, what is he doing? Can you understand him? And like, as Raceland puts together the spell he's doing, he's like, no, 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 and tries to stop him.
Yeah.
But he cannot.
Yeah.
It's too late.
And then he's like, get down, fireball.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh no, hit the
Yeah.
deck. And then I also thought it was funny. Fizzman was like, you got any bat guano? You got any bat poop? Because that's like,
Raceland's like, no.
because that's actually a spell component in the game for the spell.
Yeah. I believe it. I believe it.
And he casts fireball and proceeds to light that cage up, and it doesn't like kill anybody, but I feel like
It also doesn't work.
I feel like
It does not free them.
I feel like Tanis's beard might have got singed off a bit. So maybe he'll be more accepted when he goes to the elf people after this.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't even talk about that, how Gilthanas was so bothered that Tanis had a beard because he thought that he was hiding his elven heritage to be, safe from
Which Tanis took
these
to
elf
great
porters.
Tanis
poachers.
was super offended.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's just I've been gone.
Yeah. Shaving's a pain, dude. I actually grow facial hair. You don't. You don't understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, fireball.
The fireball doesn't work, and Fizzband is like very confused why it didn't work.
That really should have worked.
Yeah.
It was very funny. But he did manage to superheat the lock to the point where it was practically red hot. Which
And our good old Gully Dwarf.
Yeah, which managed to weaken it enough to where one more good strike from our wonderful Gully Dwarf managed to shatter the lock. So they do manage to escape just in the nick of time before Draconians swarm the cage. So
Yeah.
they do make it out, and they do also get to the supply cart that had all their possessions, right? And Sturm manages to get to his sword.
Sturm and Karaman go and get stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they do get their possessions back, and they are fleeing into the forest to find the elves.
Riverwind is like super not into going.
I forgot that he's a little racist.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think I can go in there. And Tanis is like, you have my pledge.
And I'm like, what does that mean?
More of the bromance.
I pledge allegiance to the elves. Like,
yeah.
Your pledge of what? That no harm will come to you? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Seemed odd. But
so our group of like escapees now includes Tika, Theros the Smith, Fizzban, and the Gully Dwarf, who kind of disappears.
Yeah, they actually don't know what happened to him after the fireball and after he got the lock smashed. And
because Tass promised him that he could come with them, and then they don't know what happened to him.
Tass was pretty concerned about his Gully Dwarf friend.
Yeah. So hopefully in the next chapter they'll reveal what happened to.
Yeah.
I think his name is Setson. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So.
And we do meet the elves, who are just as aloof and mean as you
Thought they
might have expected, judging by your encounters with Gilthanas. So
yeah, because it's his big brother that showed up to like take care of things. And
literally,
he's kind of a jerk.
His big brother, like this guy's a
huge,
tall dude. And he basically tells these refugees to, okay, you're out now. Take a hike.
We've given you all the food that we can. You're on your own.
And
Gold Moon is super ticked off by that. She's like, how can you do that? These people are homeless, and now you're just sending them out into like a place they've never been and they know nothing about.
Into enemy occupied.
Yeah.
It's like swarming with Draconians. They're just going to get recaptured again, you know? In that case, this was just a giant waste of your arrows. Like,
right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So
she's really irritated.
She manages to roll a good persuasion check and convince.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Convinces them to allow the refugees to head to what's it called? Do you remember? Yeah, sure.
Qualinast.
Oh, it's That's not how they pronounce it
Qualinast.
in the audiobook.
How
It's
do they pronounce it in the audiobook?
Qualinasti or something. Yeah.
It is spelled Qualinost.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the way they pronounce it in the audiobook. Qualinasti.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's where they're headed. So next time we're going to get to probably see a glimpse into elf culture.
Yeah.
Should be interesting.
Well, part of the reason why I think his name is Portheus.
The brother?
Agrees to let Goldmoon and them come is because Gilanathus tells him, like, hey, she, like, healed this dude's hand. And I don't just mean, like, she put a Band-Aid on it. She, like, made skin grow.
Right. Because he makes some jab against humans being the reason why the gods turned their faces from people. And then Goldmoon is like, the gods didn't turn away. They're here. And the dude's like, what are you talking about, you psycho? And then his brother's like, whispers in his ear, like, no, dude, it's legit. Like, she actually healed a dude with that talisman.
Like, it was bizarre.
Yeah. Like, I'm kind of wigged out. We should bring them along and maybe investigate this a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's
which
where we're
I'm
at.
excited about because I think that means we're going to meet Lorana soon, which I am stoked for.
Yeah.
I've been like waiting for her to show up this whole book.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
So yeah. So next time, well, do you have any thoughts about these chapters? I liked the last chapter, especially with the Gully Dwarf trying to hit the lock and Tass's interactions with the Gully Dwarf and Fizzban.
Yeah.
Those were all really, really funny.
Gold.
I like that.
Yeah. I think how to articulate words.
I don't know, writer. Figure it out.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about Tannis's character and how, like, up until this point he's been like the golden boy where everyone's like, oh, he's so great, and like he's the favored one, right? Everywhere they go so far. He's the like favored leader.
He's the leader of the group. He's kind of the mouthpiece, you know.
Mm-hmm. But now that they're around the elves again, we get to see that he's like super uncomfortable in his own skin and like doesn't really know. Like, he knows how to deal with them, but he's also like, I hate this. There's just a lot of tension between him and the other people, which we don't usually see. Usually he's pretty...
Yeah, it's like elves are the one group of people he does not have good charisma with, so...
Yeah. Yep. So that's interesting. It's a new dynamic for his character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Him and Flint also had some good moments where Flint is kind of taking on a soothing role. Yeah, a soothing role of like, it's gonna be fine. Just relax. Like, it's gonna be hard, but
we can do this.
It was nice to see Flint trying to help his buddy out. So, yeah.
So I thought it was really fun. It was a very different pace from where we were in the last read along.
Yeah, I like the so far anyway. I think I like this, like the vibes and the tone a little more, which is weird. I mean, they're in a worse situation now than they were. So I guess it's like there's more stakes now, and like there's more. Now I'm like more invested with the characters at this point. So I'm enjoying this. Not that I didn't enjoy book 1, but I'm enjoying this, I think, a little more so far. So
do you think that this is campaign 2?
No, I don't think so. I would say
because it technically started with them all back at the inn again.
It's not. It's like Adventure 2. It's like a different arc, a different story arc in one campaign. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
So, kind of like how our games go. You know.
Yeah. I assumed that we were in new campaigns every time, but maybe I don't know the right terminology.
No. Yeah. It's all good. Campaign is like the adventuring career of your character. You know.
Oh, so like they would be, you wouldn't. Oh, so everyone won't get to come with me in the next campaign.
Like an overarching story of the characters. So they're still like in their story, you know.
Oh.
For this.
Okay.
Oh, did you say your character won't be in the next campaign.
Yeah.
Well, you're a human, and humans can't really adventure beyond a certain age.
Oh,
Eliadus,
sad day.
the elf in the group, could potentially be there the entire
Yeah.
time.
Sad day.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, dude.
That's okay.
They're
I
in the
need a
same.
new character.
They're in
anyway,
the. They're in the
at some
same.
point.
They're in the same boat with the hobbits. So.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Alrighty. Well, so what do we read next time?
Okay, so for next time, the next
5.
read along will air on October 6th, and that is chapters 5 through 9.
5 through 9. Okie dokie. Sounds good. I'm already thinking about what book we're gonna read next.
Have you picked one out? Because we should pick one out soon, because we only have 2 more weeks of this left.
Oh, okay. How about next one? I will have picked one, and we can announce it then.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Since we picked one that you have already read, I'm tempted to pick one that I have already read.
Oh, are you going to pick Mistborn?
It's on the list.
Okay.
Well, that or the first Wheel of Time book, because the first season of that is coming out on Amazon soon.
You pick the longest books, and I pick, like, kind of, like, decently long books.
Lies of Locke
But
Lamora was not a long book.
It was. It's a big book.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I just didn't want it to end. I don't know. We'll see. Mistborn isn't that long. So
No.
if we go that route, maybe not though. I have so many books on my shelf. So
Yeah.
alrighty.
Okay.
Either way, we'll announce what that will actually be next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Until then, happy reading.
We'll talk at you next time.
Bye.
Bye.